What up guys? I hope everybody is well. My name is Enzo and today we're going to be making a PvP weapons tier list for New World. I'm going to be joined by my buddy Kyler.
Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Kyler. Put a decent amount of hours into the beta. I've played almost every MMO ever released in the last at least 4 years competitively. World of Warcraft, Guild Wars 2, Black Desert, etc. But yeah, I'm definitely excited to jump into this tier list. It's only 10 days away. I'm excited.
Yep, so we got some experience under our belts, so let's get right into this. Alright, so first we're going to start off with the Rapier. We're going to be classing them according to how well they perform in large scale, medium scale, and small scale PvP. So first off with large scale PvP, the weapon is completely useless. It has no good AoE damage. The only good thing about it is its getaway with Fletch, which other weapons do better. So it's pretty terrible for that. And the same thing applies in medium scale, is just a completely useless weapon.
Yeah, in small scale and 1v1, it's okay. Riposte and Evade actually become useful since you don't have 9,000 people attacking you at once. And Fletch is obviously still good. Generally, though, you have to pair it with something that actually does some damage, like bow or ice gauntlet, because the auto attacks just like tickle on Rapier. It's not good.
And the left side of the tree is just terrible. The Bloodskill tree, completely unusable. Tondo is actually the worst dot to ever exist in any MMO
It's pretty bad.
ever. It is fucking horrendous. And for all those reasons, that's why we're going to be putting the Rapier in D tier.
All right, Musket. This weapon is super niche. If you have sick aim and an amazing frontline, in large scale, you could absolutely just delete people in like half a second. If they're on cannons or if they're mages casting. If you don't have those two things, just be a mage. Fuck it, who cares? Like, there's no point to play Musket if you don't have those two things. You have no AOE, you have no getaway. I mean, you have sticky bomb, but like you're never gonna be in range to use it against the Zerg without getting clapped in your light armor. Small scale, like you can ambush and delete people, but like if they catch you, you're dead.
And stopping power is your only cutting ability, and to use it you have to reload. So it's really hard to reload and get a shot off. Unless you're fighting a blind person, the trap is basically unusable because it's so hard to get stuck in it. So for all those reasons, we're going to be putting it in C tier. So next up we have Spear. I'm going to start off by saying it is the most fun weapon in New World. It is super satisfying to use, and all the abilities feel really, really nice. So in large scale, it's extremely hard to use. Most likely you're not going to be in heavy armor, and anytime you're melee, not in heavy armor in large scale, you're going to get chunked. So that is a big no-no. The CCs also require you to be super close, unlike something like Warhammer where you can get off a ton of CCs in heavy armor from at least a decent range.
Yeah, for mid scale, I think it's middle of the pack. There's less damage coming in, so you're a little tankier. You have more freedom to kind of move around and find better engages with your high mobility and the high CC that Spear gives. And then in small scale, I think it's top tier for sure. You have a crazy good CC rotation, on one or maybe two people. Probably the best in the game on one person. Crazy high damage, high mobility. It's tough to beat.
Yeah, and the dex and strength scaling leads to really good pairing with things like bows, hatchet, or full CC builds with hammer. It just gives you a ton of flexibility with what you want your second weapon to be. And for all those reasons, that's why we're going to be putting Spear in B tier.
Next, we're gonna jump into the bow. So starting off with large scale PvP. Honestly, you're kind of just a budget mage.
It's pretty true, but the bow has the best out in the game with Poison Shot, which is a really nice AoE that is super easy to land. Rain of Arrows is also super good for fighting on the point in war. You just don't do as much damage as mages because they're broken, but we have some really solid AoE, so it's quite a nice weapon to use in large scale.
Yeah, for mid scale and small scale, the bow's stat scaling attributes allow you to use melee weapons that are pretty good in those situations, like Hatchet and Spear, which mages can't really do since they're obviously in scaling.
Yeah, and we also get to use some of our other abilities like Evade Shot and Penetrating Shot, which has some really nice single target damage. They're pretty hard to use in war well, but in small scale and mid scale where we have some more space to work with, it can be pretty solid. So for all those reasons, we're going to be putting the bow in B tier. So next up we got the Hatchet. Berserk is the only reason this weapon is relevant. 20% more damage, 20% move speed, it cleanses stuns, we can't be slowed, and we can't be stunned while we're using it, although this may be a bug since it doesn't say it in the tooltip. In large scale, this weapon is pretty fucking terrible. Do not use this. We have no AoE, and we have one ability with a pretty weak immobilize. Mid and small scale though, it's pretty solid. There's a gem that switches scaling on the weapon to intelligence, which makes it a crazy good secondary for mages in small scale PvP.
Yeah, I mean the catch is good. The getaway is also good with Berserk. If you're ranged and someone jumps you, you can just switch to Hatchet and press Berserk, and then you can face take them for at least 10 seconds.
And the last passive, Cheat Death, on the left side of the tree is super solid. It grants immortality for 3 seconds, which can really change the outcome of a fight. And for those reasons, we're going to be putting the Hatchet in A tier.
All right, next we have Sword and Shield. This weapon is the cornerstone of your front line in large-scale PvP. Defiant Stance is super good. It grants 30% damage reduction for 8 seconds on a 37-second effective cooldown. One of the keynote passives, blocking, grants 30% damage reduction for teammates within 2 meters. Helps your CCers like Axe and Hammer stay alive in large-scale PvP. I mean, these abilities are the only reason that frontline can exist and survived when getting pelted by mages and bows and all the other people around.
So in mid and small scale, it has okay CCs that are, like I said, mediocre. And we're super tanky due to the abilities that Kyler mentioned earlier. We can tank huge CC bursts. For example, if Ice Gauntlet puts you in a big AoE slow plus the Ice Wall, they're going to be hitting you for some massive crits, but with some of the abilities activated on the sword, we can tank huge burst damage from a lot of different weapons. So overall, this weapon is super solid. And for those reasons, we're going to be putting the sword in the A tier.
All right, next is the Hammer. So the Hammer has easily the best AoE CC and initiate in the game. The current meta in large-scale PvP is to have your frontline Hammer and Axe users create clumps of enemies using their CCs and their pulls, which then your mages explode with their massive AoE damage from the backline.
Yeah, this is possible due to the Hammer's initiate being so good. Small and mid-scale PvP with this weapon is just okay. You can lock down enemies for your teammates to kill with your CC, but in 1v1s or 1v2s when the enemy's paying a lot of attention to you, your CCs are just a little too slow, making them pretty easy to dodge. But for those reasons, we're going to be putting the Hammer in A tier because it is just such a crucial weapon in large-scale PvP. Being able to put down those CCs on the point makes it a very important weapon. So next up we have the Axe. Gravity Well is insane in large-scale PvP. It combos perfectly with the Hammer, where you Gravity Well to form a clump, which the Hammer uses CC and helps the mages land big AoEs on large clumped up groups. We also have the best melee auto attack damage in the entire game.
Yeah, in mid and small scale, it also has good damage. Charge is good mobility and good chase. Reap is good catch for people running away. And then Bloodlust, the keynote passive on the left side, is probably the best chase passive in the game. And for all of those reasons, it playing such a massive role in large scale and still being good in those small and mid scale, we're gonna put it probably at the top of A tier. All right, now we're gonna jump into the S tier, otherwise known as the Mage tier. Starting off with Ice Gauntlet, I mean, Ice Block is the best sustain in the game. You avoid large bursts, you regen mana. It's just insane. There's a reason why Ice Block in World of Warcraft was so strong, and it's the same story here.
Yeah, in large scale, Ice Block is just also unbelievable. It can get you out of some really tough situations. The 0 cast time AoE slow that we have is unfucking believable. It increases our auto attack damage and crit chance, leading to super big burst damage with our autos and our heavies. Ice Shower also gives us crit chance and more damage as well, with some really nice kite potential due to the massive amount of slows and stuns that come with it. We can slow entire choke points and just drop absolute bombs with big auto attacks.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the same story in mid and small scale. Ice Block still has huge outplay potential. Your damage is still crazy high with Ice Gauntlet. You have range slows, which is good kiting and good catch. Ice Gauntlet's broken. It's too good.
Fucking broken for sure.
Yeah, and for that reason, it's gonna go in the S tier with the other mage weapons, because if you didn't already realize, mages are broken. All right, next up we have the Firestaff. For large scale PvP, it has probably the highest AoE damage in the game. Meteor Shower and Fireball are just way too good. They do way too much damage. For those clumps that are being formed by the hammers and the axe players on your front line, as a Firestaff user, your job is to just blow them up with massive AoE damage numbers.
Yeah, we have some crazy mana sustain with our heavy attack passive. We have the best getaway in the game. It really is all you need in a weapon. Runes of Helios also gives you a massive damage boost for large scale, where standing inside of it is fairly easy and reliable. Basically, it's a small circle that appears on the ground, and you do massive damage when you're in it. You have better mana regen, you have more damage, all that good stuff. And in mid and small scale, we have very high damage autos and abilities that are easy to hit, still have that really good getaway spell, and super high dot damage because most of the abilities on the Firestaff have a burn dot. Runes of Helios does become a little bit more difficult to use in small scale because you're going to be getting targeted more often, whereas in war, you can sit in the back line and no one's going to be bothering you while you sit in the circle that boosts every single one of your stats. And so for all those reasons, and just how it's so well-rounded and so solid in every department, we're going to be putting the Firestaff in S tier.
All right, next up is the Life Staff. There's really not much to say about this weapon. It's the only healing in the game. It's overtuned. It's almost impossible to kill in 1v1s unless you hit like a perfect CC combo. I mean, it just heals for way too much. It buffs for way too much. It's the best weapon in the game.
In large scale, Sacred Ground is insane sustain for your troops. Orb of Protection is a great buff and heal for your teammates. The healing is just so fucking good, just like it is in every MMO that's ever existed. It does have some of the weakest auto in the game, and you're not really going to be putting out any damage. But who really cares about what damage you're going to be putting out when you can single-handedly be a god for your entire army? It's just an amazing, amazing weapon. And for that reason, we are going to be putting it in S tier as the best weapon in New World.
True.
Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Remember, this is just Kyler and I's opinions on the weapons. Let us know what weapon combinations you guys will be running on release down in the comments below. And we're excited to see how this tier list shakes up with the new updates and more playtime here in the near future. Thank you guys.